SMTN.
All right, but no, you guys are all fantastic. I appreciate how loud and hee-hoey the room is already so far. So I like to consider you all my Jack Bros at heart. So thank you all for being here. So like I said, welcome to the 35th. Just kidding. Thanks, Anime Expo. 30th anniversary of Shin Megami Tensei Network. Shin Megami Tensei Network, of Shin Megami Tensei, Mega 10, Persona, and all things in between, and just a couple of demi kids for fun. I'm your host, Spencer Presley. I host and run the SMTN community, which you can find pretty much everywhere besides Rumbler. I'm sure they'll get us on there one day. But yes, we're here to talk all about SMT turning 30. Once again, I cannot thank you all enough for not only being here, but also not making me have no one show up because everyone went to the official Atlas panel. So thank you. But while you are here, you all are missing out on the P3R panel. So if you would like to say anything to Atlas, I'll send this to them because they're missing out on this room full of excellent looking people. So if you'd like to hoot, holler, and say hi to Atlas, this is your one chance. So go for it. All right. I think the loudest thing I heard was don't port Digital Devil Saga to any modern platform. So that was disappointing. So we're gonna get started. By the way, for our first question, and this one's a little bit of a hard one, but I love this art that we got for the 30th anniversary recently. Who can tell me the name of the artist who actually designed this? Yes, you with the hat. You come over here, you Saito fan. Get a Persona 5 Tactica poster. You get first dibs. Yes, Saito-san is a fantastic artist. You get a poster as well as whatever first card dib you would like. And like I said, we'll just be going through this. So when people are coming up and getting cards, don't worry about ASMRing into the camera with all of the fat stack of cards. Wow. See this? Aren't I glad I saved this for the recording? So because it is a lot, we'll have it pretty much all the hollows and stuff are up front, but feel free to flick through it and pick one card of your choosing. So, yeah, Saito-san drew this art to celebrate the series turning 30. And if you guys don't know, Saito-san also did a lot of work in the Persona series. He did the manga for Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, which is coming out this year in English finally, as well as last year with Persona 5 Mementos Missions, a really great manga series. But we're not here to talk about Persona. That's for 1996. We got to talk about SMT. And you can't spell SMT without a little bit of Megami Tensei. That's right. We're starting with Digital Devil Story Megami Tensei, released on the Famicom, NES, and MSX computer systems at the time in Japan. Perfect choice. Great card. Everyone appreciates the card and also is mad they can't have it. But yeah, So yeah, when Megami Tensei came out, it was 1987, and it was based off of a novel at the time. It had gotten an OVA as well as a game adaptation, and Atlas had developed this. They were, at the time, like if you think Atlas is pretty niche now, you should have seen some of the stuff they were making back in the 80s. Karate Kid and whatnot couldn't stand a chance. But it was what started as a pretty simple RPG based off of a novel turned into a really crazy franchise. But what's so funny is I think most people don't really know that there was something before Shin Megami Tensei. And these Megami Tensei games are pretty archaic by today's standards for RPGs. And unfortunately, a lot of these are not officially translated or out there, but the history of them is still really important in terms of where we come from and how far. So next question for big nerd points, and if you want to steal a card and a poster, who here can tell me the name of the author who wrote the original Digital Devil story? Yes. Yes, you are right, Nishitani. So feel free to steal a card. And by the way, I'm not going to ask 100 questions for all 100 cards. Like at the end, it'll just be whoever wants to come up and steal a card first, you get to go. So yes, Megami Tensei was a pretty good success at first. Nothing like world-shattering. It was no Final Fantasy. It was definitely no Dragon Quest, but definitely earned its own niche at the time. And as all good things have to happen, as anything shows by today's standards, we need a sequel. So we got Megami Tensei 2 that released in 1990. Now, Megami Tensei 2 is a pretty safe sequel in a lot of senses of it's not doing anything that drastically different with the gameplay systems and mechanics, but it evolves upon the franchise, adds in a little bit of a different story, is still based on the novels of the original without being a completely direct sequel in that sense. But these two first games, really, really important, ironically were ported to the Switch in a Namco collection, but were only released in Japan. So really, really weird that was the most recent ports we ever got of them, but will not really be released in English anytime soon, unfortunately, but still very important to the franchise. And also, just like really cool art, really cool early pixel art, and fun like to kind of compare where Atlas came from versus where they are now. Now next up we got the OG, Shin Megami Tensei. There he is, the big boy Jack Frost himself. So Shin Megami Tensei released in 1992, and then later on many, many, many platforms. But who can tell me when did America, well not when, but where did America and the West in general get to play Shin Megami Tensei for the first time officially and legally? You with the big C.
iOS.
iOS. Big boos for iOS at that point. Also, it's delisted. Raise your hands up. Who here actually bought the iOS version of SMT1? Were the reasons it got delisted. That's why. If you're wondering why, it's all of you who didn't buy a copy for $4.99, but it's okay. You are more than welcome to get your card and poster, by the way. Yeah, so we got the iOS version. We're going to clap for everyone getting a question right, and I'm not going to tell you not to, because that's really wholesome. Like, yeah, he got something before me. God, I hope he doesn't get that card I want. Don't get the Alice card. Please don't get the Alice card. So, Shin Megami Tensei 1 was a really big step forward for the franchise and a new direction for what was basically rebooting Megami Tensei in general. And this one definitely was a lot bigger of a release for Atlus in terms of the sales, the recognition, the critical reception in Japan. Obviously, this still never left Japan for many, many years, but is such a nostalgic game even to this day, from the cover, the soundtrack, and even the ports. Like, the ports of this game are wild. Like, outside of stuff like the Game Boy Advance or PlayStation, like, my personal favorite actually is the Sega CD version, which has like a super 90s as hell like cover art. Really fun to look at the different comparisons out there. Unfortunate that there's not a still current legal version to recommend and play it. The easiest way, if you are curious, if anyone here has a Switch and Switch Online, you can just make a Japanese account and log in that way. You can play 1, 2, and If that way. Still Japanese only, but get an idea of what these games are really like and kind of check out the origins without having to bust open the bank and have the Nintendo lawyers hunt you down for pirating. So, SMT1, really, really great first start, but then they decide, all right, we're going to make a sequel, but we need to make the sequel just still feel like SMT, but be way Audubon. So the story of SMT1, because we're not going that deep into everything because I have about 9 million games to talk about. But SMT1, you're a kid, you're picking your friends, you have your guy friend 1, guy friend 2, law person here, chaos person here, neutral dog. By the way, shout out to Pascal in the chat. Who here? Get some love for Pascal? Also, RIP to Pascal. It's okay. Rest in power, Pascal. That's what it stands for. So the story basically being like you are a generic anime high school teen. Apocalypse breaks out, as it does. I assume it was a Tuesday, SMT Tuesdays. And insanity ensues. Demons are everywhere. Your mom, R.I.P. mom, not as much as the dog, but at least the mom, yeah. Everybody's dying. Your friends are still alive, being super edgy, picking weird sides. Why aren't we all just working together? But introducing things like summoning demons, fighting demons, learning more about mythology, which, by the way, is like one of my favorite things about just like Shin Megami Tensei in general, just getting to learn more about these creatures and just going like, oh my god, look at that thing, and then Googling it and going like, oh Jesus, look at that thing. Which I just really enjoy because, like, for all of these series out there that use monsters, whether it be like fictional or mythological creatures, it's just so fun to kind of like learn about all these different aspects, especially from different cultures' mythologies and stuff. Like, kind of jumping ahead a little bit, like one of my favorite things was like in 5, like learning about like the I'm totally gonna pull its name for it, but the like Philippines demon they added from like 5, like we're like so. Oh, here, that's a great question. Who here remembers the name of the Yes, you. Yes, come up here. She's not a card, unfortunately. But like, outside of being a really cool like representation of like Philippines culture.
Philippines.
Well,
Philippines. That's why.
But also, who doesn't like a floating torso with like her ass just sticking out the entire time? That's a great demon design going on.
She eats babies, by the way.
Yeah, and she eats babies. But I mean, she could join the club. There's a lot of really messed up women in SMT 5.
Just like me, for real.
But who'd you pick?
Demi-Fiend.
Demi-Fiend. Demi-Fiend is taken off the chat. The Demi-Chat has left the card stack. So, yes, going back to the series, SMT1 really kind of just refining everything with it. Yeah, get that poster. You don't want to forget that one. Next up, chronologically, we've got, weirdly, our first English released one, but we didn't get it at the time of release. We got Revelations, the Demon Slayer, otherwise known in other countries as Last Bible. Revelations was like Atlus's very short-lived term of Shin Megami Tensei sounds like a mouthful, so let's just call it Revelations. This is also during a time where Atlus had to put the words RPG on the cover to like let people know what the game was, so the 90s was a weird time for Atlus. So while Revelations didn't last long, it is a very interesting RPG in the sense that it was a portable version of Shin Megami Tensei, and much like a lot of those early 90s Game Boy ports, it is super simplified down. Really basic art, really basic mechanics, but still that same kind of SMT experience at its core. And while the Last Bible series got many iterations, we missed out on almost all of them after this. But I always appreciate that it was something that we got. It is a physical copy that exists. Maybe one day we'll get added for future releases. We'll have to wait and see. But next up, we've got Shin Megami Tensei 2. And yes, the one meme that everyone remembers from it of everybody dancing furiously. I couldn't believe they didn't make that like reference at all during last night. Like I get it, the one more God rejected thing like is there for everybody, but like if they were just like, hey everybody, I hope you're all having a great time out there dancing furiously, all 6 of us who knew that reference would have really lost it at the concert. Be like, that's me, I'm up there, I'm dancing furiously. So Shin Megami Tensei 2 is such a crazy example of, I wish this game, more people had got a chance to play it, because I feel like when you explain the story in a beat-by-beat process, it just sounds like a fever dream compared to the original one of post-apocalyptic, everyone's wearing super sexy armor, everyone looks way too hot to be in the future, but like the characters are interesting, like the theming of it is crazy, the music is beyond, like it goes way harder than like any game from back then should have for being as unpopular as it is. But for all of you out there who have checked out or even just listened to SMT2 soundtrack, it's an absolute beast to behold. It's a really fun, beautiful looking game that I cannot recommend enough, but sadly we cannot play it at all. Next up, another beautiful game none of us here get to play legally, Shin Megami Tensei If. Now, Shin Megami Tensei If is one of those funny things of, I feel like most people know it as the game that inspired Persona, but it is so much more than that. It is one of the first major offshoots that really kind of inspired Atlus in terms of changing what a Shin Megami Tensei game could be. Instead of making it take place in this grand apocalyptic world, we basically make it a lot smaller, make the story more intimate, make it about this class and this setting of who do you choose, who do you play as, and like, by the way, shout out to like the ability of like the story, which you could have like multiple endings, actually felt a lot more consequential and if compared to the other ones for me, because while I love Shin Megami Tensei, when you play a lot of them, you do kind of notice the things that get repeated a lot. And when the ending is just bad guys had good ending and good guys had bad ending, it's a bit of a bummer, but I always enjoy when it gets a little bit more nuanced. And I thought the cast of If, while not handled flawlessly, was a good idea of where the direction was kind of going, of learning about these characters more, because you are a class. You grew up together, you're still with each other. And when you just immediately jump into an apocalyptic setting and there's 6 people alive, it's a little bit limiting in terms of who you can really interact with and see how people would process these situations differently. Yes?
Actually, one of the other games that's pretty similar that was actually my favorite for the originally came out on the DS and was re-released for the 3DS was Devil Survivor. And Devil Survivor was one of the few games that had multiple endings like that. It had 7.
I could host an entire week-long panel just talking about Devil Survivor. I am such a big fat nerd for that game. Devil Survivor, let me tell you, spoilers right now, I don't talk about it enough in this panel, but god damn, I love Devil Survivor 1 and 2. Those are so good. And whether you're playing them on the DS or the 3DS or watching the anime or reading the manga are really, really good. But we will get to Devil Survivor for sure, but that is a really good analogy for sure. But moving on, something that sounds like Devil Survivor. We've got Shin Megami Tensei Devil Summoner. We're almost getting to the point where we get these games, I promise you. They're not all just going to be Japanese-only games. So Devil Summoner was another kind of departure for Atlas of like, okay, let's show people what is different about Shin Megami Tensei. Like when we keep these core facilities and these core themes and elements, what can we really do and kind of expand this world or the different worlds that it all resides in? And Devil Summoner to me is just like such Spencer bait of the setting. It's got that like almost like kind of Smokies, 90s, like near future Blade Runner-esque kind of feeling, and we're going to get there soon with its like pseudo sequel. But the world of Devil Summoner, the soundtrack and the vibes of it are so 90s futuristic aesthetic. I can't say enough things about it. But another good question out there for everybody: what is one way that Devil Summoner was adapted into media? You in the back, I saw your hand first. Yes, how was Devil Summoner adapted into media? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, they had that live-action TV show.
Yes, there is a live-action TV show. Come steal your card to poster. Yes, there was a very, very short-lived live-action TV show for Devil Summoner. And if you ever wondered what the handsome protagonist of Devil Summoner's ass looked like in real life, that show will answer it for you. There's some straight man butt in that. Now, here's a bit of a niche one. Let me know if you've heard of it. It's called Revelations Persona. It was a little indie game back then, Atlas released in 1996. And this was obviously a big one in the grand scheme of things. But ironically, like at the time, this just was kind of another spin-off for them. This was Atlas sort of taking the things they'd started working with in If, getting the school elements and sort of expanding upon it with the characters, the relations you have, and instead of just using demons, introducing things called personas and all the different systems that entailed. And Revelations Persona is such a funny one for multiple reasons. Number one being, yes, you're seeing that right. That's rated kids to adults. Anyone can play that. Get your babies, get your nephews. It's all ages, baby. It doesn't matter. Don't ask where they came from. I'm sure they're all sanctioned by all religions everywhere. The ESRB doesn't make any mistakes. That's a kid's game. So you're all babies for liking Persona. If you ever wonder that, that's the proof you needed. So yeah, Persona came out on the PlayStation in 1996. Ironically, both in America and Japan. It was a very close release, although we did have a lot of content missing. So that's going to be the next question. Who knows the name of the PlayStation 1 quest line that we were missing for Persona 1? Okay, I literally can't see you, but I know you in the back of the guy pointing to you. You had your hand up first.
The Ice Queen.
Yes, the Ice Queen mission was missing. Feel how about that as you will. It is in the PSP version. So we're also not going to be talking about every single port and oh yes.
Was it me or him?
You can both get a card. We've got enough up here. I'm not gonna stitch it. I believe in my heart. I believe in my heart of hearts. You all knew it was the Ice Queen. So this one came out, and again, while while this did release, what was funny about it was in the West, it was really like a nothing release. RPGs were a dime a dozen, and this game didn't really set the world on fire in terms of sales. But Atlas kind of knew that we had a lot of potential here with the franchise, and saw the reception to it and kind of worked for it in the future, and games we'll see coming up shortly. Well, I say shortly, it'll be like 4 years from now, but our next game is another Japanese exclusive and the only PC exclusive outside of like MMOs and stuff like that. We have Gaiten Megami Tensei. If you're wondering what the hell is this and why have I never heard of it, it's because I just said it was a PC Japanese exclusive Megami Tensei. And if you're wondering, where are those beautiful breasts that should be on the cover of that? Well, you know what? I don't know what Anime Expo's rules are on nudity, so instead you get a great image of everyone's favorite Giga Chad from SMT4. Oh, we got a King Frost in the house. Perfect. And a big ISIS fan over here. Give it up for ISIS, everybody. I'm sure that audio clip will never be taken out of context ever in my life. So, Gaiten Megami Tensei, for all of you out there wondering for it, it is another instance of post-apocalyptic, not really relating to a lot of things, some interesting ties to the franchise, but as one of the 6 people in the Western world who've actually touched this game, it's fun, it's got a cool soundtrack, but not one that I'm like telling everyone that they need to check out for real. It's a cool piece of history, though, especially the fact that it was them expanding to other markets with PC. Obviously, Atlas had really stuck to PlayStation and Nintendo at that time. And while they definitely took a long time to really get back to PC, it's stuff like this, though, that like I would still love to see these things get ported, like not like full HD remasters, but there's a market for people out there who like, I mean, give it up for like all the games out here I've talked about, even the ones you haven't played. Who here wants to play these in a legal way, like on modern platforms? For all the audio listeners out there, all the hands are raised. Of course they would be. Yeah, please, Sega. We're just trying to give you our money. So speaking of giving our money, I'm so glad you guys cheered for this game. If you guys are like, man, what is that game? That looks fucking weird. We have got SMT, Devil Summoner, Soul Hackers, and this was like the game that I felt like I was taking crazy pills for years. I remember playing the Sega Saturn version at a friend's house years and years and years ago before the 3DS release, and just being like, man, this game will never come out in America. It was like, why would this come out? It's like a cyberpunk Atlas love child with like one of the craziest cast of characters, a soundtrack that goes way too hard. Shout out to Wink Wink, wherever the hell they are. And like, everything came together and just being like, nah, it'll just be one of those weird games lost to time. It'll never come out over here. But then they said, no, you big dummy, we're going to release it on the 3DS. And I'm so glad they did. It is not that crazy of a port in general. They redid a lot of art assets for it, added new cutscenes, and did voice acting. But seriously, like just having this game available on the 3DS, I could tell by all of you guys cheering. If you've checked it out, you all know how great it is. If you've not, it's just one of those games I cannot recommend enough. Most people haven't really tried it compared to the other mainstream games in the franchise 1 through 5, but Soul Hackers is really up there as like one of the most special spin-offs for me in general, just because it gets so much right. The story's great, the art holds up, and I mean, Nemissa. Do I need to say more? It's Nemissa over here. So, quick little easy answer. Who can tell me the name of the group from Soul Hackers? You in the corner, over there. It's you. Yep, you.
Spookies.
Thank you. Yes, you are correct. Spookies. Come up here and get your card and or poster. So, you can get up, whatever. It don't matter. We got a lot of cards. It's okay. So, next up we've got Persona 2, Innocent Sin. We got a lot of Hitler fans in the house, apparently. Big fans of the Fuhrer in the house. ISIS lovers and Hitler lovers all came together for one room. So, I mean, also, I tried to incorporate as many like stupid like gifts as possible. I hope that everyone, actually here, this will be a good. I've got a Tatsuya card right here that I hope somebody wants. Who here, while being sat down, thinks that they have the best motorcycle impression possible? I saw your hand first over here on the right. It's got to be a loud one, though. You're a motorcycle. What do you sound like? All right, I mean, that sounded like a bit of a dirt bike. Can I get the Get Smoked hat?
I'm pretty sure the one in the song 2 was more like.
All right, and one more just for good measure. I'll get it from over here. Yes, you right there. Yes, you. Oh, come on, get over here. I wanted a loud one. You got it. For the other two, come down here, get your card. It won't be Tetsuya, but you can still get a card. So you can come down for doing your best motorcycle impressions. But you get Tatsuya. Thank you, man. All right, so Persona 2 Innocent Sin was such a kind of spark for the series in terms of again, unfortunately Japanese only, released in 1999, first on the PlayStation, eventually on the PSP. Now, we didn't get this in the West, and the reason for it was basically Atlas of West at the time knew that it was going to be a duology, but it wasn't a necessary sequel to it, so they decided to put their efforts into the second part of the duology. But Innocent Sin, it took a long time for us to get it, but I'm so glad we did. It is such a awesome evolution of the series. The cast is so much better than the original in terms of everyone being fleshed out, how much more time they all get. No offense to Mark, but I'm just saying when I think of characters from 2, I remember so many more moments with each and every one of them compared to the first core group of everybody. And There's a reason we still want Persona's 2 duology fully remastered, kind of getting the love and attention it deserves, is because it's so weird that we have a remake of the first game and then America's just told, nah, play the old stinky PS1 version for the second game. It'd be like if you watched Infinity War on 4K and then had to watch Endgame on a VHS bootleg. You're yeah, I mean, it's still the same story, but I'd like to play the good one, please. And then you found out Taiwan got an 8K version for some reason. So Innocent Sin was originally always meant to be 2 games. It wasn't one of those things where they split it up to try and Pokemon it or try and make a part 1 to part 2. They felt they had the story that they wanted to show both perspectives of, that you can play either the first one first or the second one first, and they'll both complement each other. But Innocent Sin was a very, very big success in Japan, and the PSP version was very universally loved for it. Didn't obviously sell the best, but that's kind of more of a PSP thing in general. But again, Innocent Sin, I can't recommend it enough. Has to have one of the wildest openings of it, especially the PSP animated opening just goes so hard. But next up we've got the big girl herself. We've got Eternal Punishment, and Eternal Punishment is, again, everything I say about 2 just goes into Eternal Punishment. It's hard to always kind of say, which one's better, so why make me have to say which one's better? We'll do a volume test. Who here thinks Innocent Sin is the better out of the duology? Give me a woo or whatever noise you want to make. Woo! And who here thinks Eternal Punishment is the better one? I feel like a lot of that was just because Maya's really great. So, Eternal Punishment, we got this one in America. It was a weird case, by the way, of, did anyone remember who owns a physical copy of Eternal Punishment? It came in that dual CD case, and you were thinking oh man, it must be because it comes with 2 games on it. For a card and or poster, who remembers what was on the bonus disc of Eternal Punishment? Yes. It was, yes, it was an OVA. Feel free to come up and get your card. It was an OVA that was designed to not catch you up on Innocent Sin, but give you the vibes of Innocent Sin. Obviously not telling you anything of it really, but if you've not seen it, just look up Persona 2 OVA PlayStation and you'll be able to check it out. It's an absolutely beautiful little snippet and will make you say, man, I wish Persona had an anime, but that wasn't going to happen for another 10 years. Now, I didn't include a lot of the spin-offs, but this one I had to include because it's actually related to the card game. So you see the card he's holding, it's the same back as these ones. So this one is Trading Card Summoner, not to be confused with the Devil Children games. Those are not related to this. This is just a Game Boy version. Like if any of you guys remembered like the old Game Boy Pokemon trading card game like back then, or Digimon card game on PlayStation, it's like that. It's like, hey, would you like to play a worse version of your favorite card game? Here you go. It's absolutely charming. It's got some really interesting art that you wouldn't really expect, but it's got a lot of cool, unique designs for the cards because they couldn't really do a one-to-one of the art from the cards in the Game Boy game. But it was just such an interesting title I had to include, especially with the Bandai stuff we have here. This one I cannot imagine ever getting brought up, reported here for it, but for the one guy, I forget where they were. Who's the guy who ordered? You're the one who ordered it? Because you were the only guy in here who ordered this. I will let you, let's see, what's a fair thing that I can give you that's one up here? No, he doesn't need 2 boxes. He already has everything up here. You can come up and get one of the posters before they're out, and I'll think of something else to give you as well because you have half of everything already on this table. But you get first dibs at a poster because I don't want you to miss out on the poster.
Thank you.
So yes, next up, speak of the Demi Devils, we've got Demi Kids, and Demi Kids. This was the unabashed Pokemon clone. This was Atlas saying, "All right, I'm tired of eating ramen every night. Let's see if I can get some of that sweet, sweet Pokemon dollars." And they started this originally, actually, in the 90s with the Game Boy versions, and there was a PlayStation version. There was different colors like red, blue, black. Well, probably not blue, but all colors of the rainbow. Basically, the only differences these ever had were who you played as and the story very, very slightly. I'm not the kindest critic to the Demi Kids game, but they are interesting history of like, boy, I'm glad we kind of let this trend die because it works for Pokemon, does not really work for Atlas games or especially Shin Megami Tensei. But I do love the fact that like it is, if you look at the covers, it is technically Shin Megami Tensei Demi Kids, and it's like one of the earliest Atlas games that actually used Shin Megami Tensei without actually being on there. Now, it's stupidly expensive, like even just for the card. But kind of going back and giving another history question, this is a spin-off. What was the first Shin Megami Tensei game? I've not included it on this slide, but what was the first Shin Megami Tensei game, not in name, but in universe, that released in the West? I'll give you it. Oh, Shulk number 2.
I know it was released on the Virtual Boy.
It was a Virtual Boy game. Do you remember the name? You got it. Come on, I believe in you. On the Virtual Boy. Really red. The Angry Video Game Nerd technically reviewed this. I believe in you. Well, he touched it. He said, here's a game. Dante, looking like you're about to pee your pants. What's the name of this game?
It was Jack Bros.
It was indeed Jack Bros. Both of you, get up here, get a card, get a poster. Yes, Jack Bros. Hilariously, like one of the least important games for like Atlas history, but like ironically, like the best Virtual Boy game, and unfortunately the most expensive. Jack Bros is really easy to play emulated nowadays. Like Virtual Boy games like emulate pretty easily, and it is really funny because it's just like a top-down shooter. I can't recommend Jack Bros enough just for like A, the memes, and B, just because what other game are you going to be able to play as the OG trio? Well, here, that would actually be a good one. So the trio for Jack Bros, I'm not going to say name all three of them because that'd be real easy, is of course Jack Frost. Now, who are the other two? I saw your hand first. Name one of them. And then who's the third canceled Jack Bro? You with the red sleeve. You. Yes, you. Not Jack Skellington, but you're close. You in the far right corner. Yeah, you.
Jack Ripper.
I'll give that. So yes, it is Jack the Ripper. You guys who all answered, please come up and grab your card. Yes, it was Jack the Ripper. Which, by the way, if you ever wonder why is Jack the Ripper no longer part of the Jack Bros, probably not great to make like your iconic mascot character based off like a rapist, like serial killer. But like that's just my suggestion. So if you ever have anyone wondering that. That's the dirty secret of Jack Bros. So next up, we're getting into the really, like, boy, if you've played this game, you're a real big nerd, Marsh or me. So we've got Shin Megami Tensei 9. Shin Megami Tensei 9 was like, it was like someone at Atlas lost a bet and said, you need to make a game that will sell so bad, everyone will forget why you named this SMT 9. So this was an original Xbox exclusive released in 2002. And believe it or not, was actually the origins for what would eventually... You guys are so dedicated to find a good card. You're like, there's a Willy Wonka ticket of a card hiding in here.
Is there a Rhino?
There is no Rhino, unfortunately. Yes, but someone might have already taken it. But yes, so what's so funny is 9 is such a weird case of its emulation is absolutely awful. You pretty much have to mostly play it on original Japanese Xbox hardware because, of course, it's region locked. It's not that pretty of a game. It was supposed to actually be the single player content was going to be what shipped in SMT 9, and then the multiplayer for what would eventually become SMT Imagine was going to launch on this one, but was eventually scrapped and turned into the PC game. But does anyone here know why is it called SMT 9? I saw your hand raised first.
It's for the 9 different branching tabs.
Yes, that is correct. Not because they thought we'll never get to 9. Now, what will they do in the next 30 years when there is SMT 9? They better lean into it. It better just be a remake of this game and just all of us get trolled. It's really the Madden 25 of issues. Like, what will Madden do in 2 years when they have a game to release in the year 2025? You already blew your load with Madden 25. You can't call it Final Fantasy Madden 25 too. All right, so SMT 9. It's fine. It's a funny, fine game that, like, it's the most, hey, did I miss anything? No, you're good. It's fine. That's about it. It's a really interesting game, though, in the sense of really early 3D models for Atlas. We hadn't seen this much 3D models released. It was a lot of pixel art back in the PlayStation era and stuff as well. But you know what had a lot of 3D and was a lot more popular? We've got a little game called Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne. And yes, I know it's technically called Shin Megami Tensei 3 Nocturne, but they dropped the 3 originally, and I always liked that better because I think, like, mom and pop buying games at Walmart in, like, 2003, we're going to look at the 3 and go, I don't know, Billy, you might be out of loop without SMT 1 and 2 under your belt. Let's hold off on this Nocturne adventure. For all of our international friends out there, for our question from Nocturne, you guys already know what I'm going to be asking. I'll give you a 2-1. You in the back are hilariously excited. What was the name of Nocturne in the UK?
Lucifer's Call?
It was Lucifer's Call. Come up here. So the reason it was called Lucifer's Call was because there was a trademark dispute, basically, and in the UK they were not able to call it Nocturne for many, many years because there was another IP using Nocturne. And it never really affected anything. It was published by Ghostlight Games over there. Atlas here in the West, this was our first big worldwide SMT game we got. And boy, was it a big one. Like, Nocturne was this game that was just in development for so many years and had so much stuff going on. It was, like, honestly, like, there's a whole documentary they filmed for. You could find it online about the development of Nocturne. It was like this giant Herculean journey of basically how do we redefine Shin Megami Tensei in 3D while making it kind of feel like a true proper sequel. Because 1 and 2 were pretty close to each other in release, but it had been so many years between 1, 2, and even If, where a real classic Shin Megami Tensei game came out. And Nocturne, I feel, definitely lived up to that. Obviously, you can tell it's not... There was a lot of things that got cut in the process. There were many, as game development happens, there are 9 million versions of a game that get cut before the finished product ever exists. And Nocturne is just such an interesting case of looking at how they translated things. Like, it's this giant leap forward for the series, but even by, like, PS2 standards, it was kind of funny that, like, this was a game that had 0 voice acting. But what's funny about it is, like, it has no voice acting, but there's still lip flap movements. So if anyone here ever wondered why it was when they added voice acting to the HD version of Nocturne and the lip syncs are awful, it's because the lip syncs were done for a game that had no voice acting. So it was just like trying to do ADR over the Peanuts parents' voice. It's like no one could do it. I'm sorry, Robbie Damon, you just can't do it in time. But Nocturne is just such a crazy game of like the soundtrack is outstanding. The story is so grand and like large in scope of like everyone's favorite like femboy twink loses his shirt and has to get sick tattoos and like defeat God or the IKEA lamp at the end of the day. It's an amazing journey that can only be done once, I promise.
Hey, get it right, the disco ball. There's even an archangel that calls him one.
That's true. So, along with Nocturne releasing, one of the funny things about Nocturne is we're really getting into Atlas re-releasing games a lot. There are so many versions of Nocturne, I feel like most people might not even know this. The original version of Nocturne in Japan didn't even have Dante or Raito in it. It's just a game that has no post-dungeon, no other like secret ending, no old man Lucifer. There's a lot of stuff that they added over the years with the releases that are so interesting to kind of compare them to. Obviously, by the time we got it in the West, we did get everyone's favorite demon and demon exterminator, Dante from the Devil May Cry series. Now, this is a weird little bit of trivia. And like I don't know if it's trivia or like a Mandela effect. Who here has seen this logo and thought that this was on the North American box? It's not. It's only on the European one. It was on Lucifer's Call and became a meme like the And Knuckles thing, so that we all assumed it had a giant Dante logo on the front. But like literally, if you look at the box art of Lucifer's Call, there's just a PNG of Dante on there because they didn't know how to sell it to people. They're like, whatever, we'll throw it on there. Like what's really funny is like I tried to do a video a long time ago of the publisher's still around who did Lucifer's Call, Ghostlight Games. I actually tried to find out who designed the logo, and we found the person who did. And the best part was he didn't even know it was a meme. He was like, he had made this in like 2004 like Photoshop and like did it in 5 minutes and didn't even think anything of it. And it was so funny to like surprise this like old British man and be like, no man, you created like a meme of like epic proportions and has no idea that anyone like ever uses it. But yeah, Nocturne was a huge success in Japan at the time, and really a big critical success, not financially, but in the West, it was like one of those big, like also, shout out, who here remembers the classic G4 skit of Nocturne versus Kingdom Hearts 2? Like, listen, where was Kingdom Hearts 2 during Hurricane Katrina? That's the real question we need to be asking ourselves. I'm just saying, Shin Megami Tensei wouldn't raise our taxes. That's the real thing. By the way, like really sad news. Like the guy who did that like passed away last year, and I was like, clearly like that's not like his claim to fame as an actor. But I loved like the SMT community had a moment of silence for G4 guy for a Nocturne. So next up, another classic. I'm gonna be saying another classic for the next like 50 games, so please don't let me do this. We have Shin Megami Tensei Digital Devil Saga, and like man, if you ever thought to yourself, man, Nocturne was great, I don't know how they're gonna like one up this game. Atlas said, hold my beer, I'm gonna give you tits with mouths on it and cannibalistic demons, and they really delivered. So Digital Devil Saga is basically, again, this like crazy take on Shin Megami Tensei as a universe, but with this completely different cast of characters, thankfully voiced. Shout out to Yuri Lowenthal. The whole cast of Digital Devil Saga is such a blast, and the world of it is so crazy. And like again, it was one of those cases of like, I'm so glad like we got these games as the duology it is, but like it's a world like I feel like at any point if we came back to it and got another game with it, it would be so relevant to this day of something I really hope gets support. Like just a show of woos and claps. Who here has played the Digital Devil Saga games? Like, they are so in need of a re-release and need so little work. Like, they hold up so well. They're really, really fun. And, like, I think anytime, like, people would just eat up a re-release of this, please happen. But again, like, who knows whatever's happening. We've got 18 Persona games to release first. So Digital Devil Saga was a fun one of releasing of. This one was always planned on being a part 1 and a part 2 story. We did get the sequel. It is a crazy, crazy story. And I will always recommend this to people. If you are out there and want more of this kind of world, there is a sort of pseudo-sequel book that was written called Quantum Devil Saga. It is a 5-part novel. It's a novel only. It did get translated, but only 2 of them did. So we didn't get the full series because apparently not enough of us bought it, but they are out there, like official hardcover and softcover copies out there. They're really cool collector's items. If you love the world of Digital Devil Saga, I cannot recommend Quantum Devil Saga enough. It's the same writer, really, really great translation job. It was super, super well done. And hey, part 2 happened. I don't know why. A weird little aside. The only like gifts I could find for part 2 was this random like countdown of like, is the jailer like the worst part of this game? I don't remember this at all. But like, it's like one of those like weird moments of like, I didn't like, is he like the matador of this game? And I just didn't realize it growing up. So yes. Yeah, that is true. I mean, but like I kind of like always go into these games of like difficulty, at least to me with like Shin Megami Tensei is always like funny because like the talk always comes up of like, oh, SMT is too hard, Persona's too easy, and stuff like that. But like for me, what I always find so funny is like I very rarely go into these games looking to have like my balls punched into a wall for 5 hours. Like I really like the mechanics and the story and how they complement each other. And obviously if you're there for the challenge, like it's there, crank it up if it's possible. But like I always like, for me, it's the world, the characters, the music, and all of it kind of coming together. And then the gameplay being fun obviously is hooking you there, but it's just like there's a lot of RPGs out there. There's not a lot of RPGs out there that are like Atlas games, which is what really kind of keeps me coming back for so long. So next up, we've got everyone's favorite Devil Summoner, Raito Kuzunoha versus the overly long subtitle. So we got in 2006 the second to last Atlas PS2. Oh god, not even the second line. There's so many of them on there. We've got so many PS2 games. Atlas supported the PS2 for like a hilariously long amount of time. But Devil Summoner 1 was not only a very different take in terms of the setting of this kind of like different era of Japan to be setting it for the world, but not only that, but with the gameplay being so different. Like one of the things that's so funny about the Raito games is like when you recommend them to people like, oh, I love Shin Megami Tensei. Well, I like Raito. Be like, maybe. Like it's a different take on an action RPG with Shin Megami Tensei mechanics. I really like it for what it does. It does a lot of different things out there. Now, I guess I'll give an easy question out there. Who here knows the Raito that we play as, Raito Kuzunoha? Which number is he in his family? Yes.
Raito Kuzunoha, the 14th.
You are correct. Get your 14th card up here. Unfortunately, Raito is not a card on here. But he's a card in our heart. That's all that matters, really. So, Devil Summoner, another duology that like is just ripe for a re-release. But like, whereas Digital Devil Saga, I can be like, yeah, if you love Nocturne, jump into Digital Devil Saga. Like, Raito's a little bit one of like, I kind of understand Atlas being a little more trepidatious of wanting to re-release that, especially because they never were the most like popular games, even though, again, let's give it up. Raito Kuzunoha, fucking like the coolest, like his outfit alone is like one of the coolest. All right, and next up, I think Atlas had like a sponsor with Hot Topic at the time, and they made this little spin-off to Shin Megami Tensei. They took a couple years off and made a little game. Tell me if you've heard of it, called Persona 3.
Don't yell at me.
Oh yeah, what's up?
It's not 18 plus.
Oh, no worries, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. It's my last day here, guys. I'm not coming back to the convention tomorrow. I'm going to get burned. So, besides that, Persona 3 released in 2006. And what was so fun about Persona 3 coming out was it was a really big departure with many different things they added. A lot of people like to equate Persona just like it's Shin Megami Tensei with dating sim elements, but it's really so much more than that in terms of like how they kind of defined the world, using the calendar system, choosing how you spend your time and different things like that. So what was so funny was like just how that was such a perfect kind of light that sparked both in Japan but in the West. Like Persona 3 was easily like one of like the biggest things at the time Atlas had ever released, and ranging from whether it be the unique visuals, the soundtrack, and everything else for it. Like what's funny is like a lot of people think of like how visually distinct and different Persona 3 is, but what's interesting about it is like it's easily like their visually least impressive PS2 game because they're doing so much over that calendar system of having so many different locations to go to, so many different unique characters, so many different side people to like meet, side jobs, and like going into like dungeons. It's like a very simple looking game that has so much kind of underneath it going on, and it's one of those things like I feel like you can ask every single person in here who's played it. Like there's a different reason everybody sort of loves it, and it's very interesting to see where we're going to be at later in the future with the remake and stuff with it. But yeah, Persona 3 is easily got to be like how Nocturne reinvented what Shin Megami Tensei was. Persona 3 is really what branched it apart into becoming its own kind of pillar, and not much more than just a franchise like sequel, like a Devil Summoner or a Devil Survivor like that. So again, shout out to Persona 3, really, really big game, and again, got released a hilarious amount of time. So another question I'm going to have for you guys, we all know Persona 3 got re-released as Persona 3 Fez. Who here knows what Fez stands for? You, I think I saw first. Festival. Yes, that is correct. Feel free to go get your card. So, why is it festival? Is the whole game centered around festivals? Not really. It's like mostly about like doors in the desert for some reason. But hey, it's a nice title. So next up, who here has actually played Shin Megami Tensei Imagine? Awesome. So this was this is that game that like you either played this and have deep core memories of losing your life to this game, or you're everyone else who played Adventure Quest on the library computer. So with a little bit of Gaia Online on the side. So Imagine was that multiplayer component that was originally developed for 9 and fleshed out into its own PC RPG. And it just was that kind of interesting case of how do we make an MMO in the world of SMT a pretty much always a single-player adventure. And I think it does a lot of interesting things on there. It lasted for many, many years. It was still available on private servers, but is no longer available anymore. But one of the things that I think made Imagine so unique was it was doing so much different at the time versus other MMOs. You had obviously like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy XI was very popular, EverQuest and stuff like that. But the reason, like, I know people who don't even like follow SMT, like remembered Imagine because of just how unique it was, and like the world and like the party and like the way it handled things like raids and whatnot. And like the community like is still so hungry for it to come back. I don't ever realistically expect it to, but I do think it is one of those really interesting things of like saying, like, I love that this series takes such sharp, drastic turns, and even if they're not always financial successes, like, not everything's going to be a Persona, but I appreciate that those efforts existed out there. So, like I said before, we've got the festival came out. We're not going to have every single re-release on here, but Fez is an interesting one because, weirdly enough, in Japan, it was actually released separately. You could just buy the Fez content, and in America, it was just given it to us as one big re-release bundle where you could have everything on there. By the way, shout out to, I feel like this has to just be like the alternative. Who here prefers Fez as like their definitive version of P3? Yeah. Who here thinks Portable is their definitive version of P3? Ew! All right. The guy who said ew, you get this. You can come down and like take the cardboard like filler whenever you're ready. Doesn't have to be now. That's reserved for you. Just strong ew for FemC in the chat. Man, I would have died, like actually died in this seat if you guys just said ew when I changed the transition of this. That would have been really funny. Ew, yellow. So Persona 4 was like Atlas had pretty much found their perfect rhyme and rhythm of like, okay, we know what people liked about Persona 3. Let's expand upon this even more. Let's keep it on the PS2, even though it's well after the PS3 is already released. And with it... Oh, yeah, no worries. Hey, man, that cardboard is a piece of AX history. It needed to be collected. So Persona 4, again, just like the perfect kind of evolution of taking the story in a new setting. Instead of being in a big town, we're going into small suburban Japan. I love the vibes of this game, like whether it be the music or the characters. Like I'm a basic guy over here. I love me some Yosuke. I love solving mysteries with the Scooby-Doo gang. It's such a blast, like still going back to this day, and it's like such a classic game for so many reasons, and also had a really popular anime, which I'm sure made a lot more sales. But next up, we've got, can't forget it, the final PlayStation 2 Atlas RPG, RIP, to Raito Kuzunoha versus King Abaddon. Again, it's kind of just more Raito 2, but cleaned up, looking better, playing better, more mechanics. Really, really fun game. But I've got like 30 minutes, if that, left on this panel, and I got to burn through like 16 more games. So I love you, Raito, but we got to go. So next up, hey... So, as I mentioned, I need a whole week-long panel to talk about how much I love Devil Survivor. The best part about Devil Survivor is that it did the thing that most Atlas re-releases never do, and it just makes it the best version of it possible, of like, hey, if you haven't played Devil Survivor, just play Overclocked. It's the best version of it. It has voice acting. It's got more content. But, like, one of the funny things about Devil Survivor that I always, like, wonder when I bring it to, like, conventions and talk about it at panels is, like, it, like, instead of a question, I'm just going to ask, like, for any diehard Devil Survivor fans out there, like, what is it about Devil Survivor that, like, really speaks to you guys, the fandom? Because, like, it's such a passionate group of the fandom, even though it's a series that hasn't had love in so many years. Yeah, you with the bucket hat.
It's a perfect combination of strategy gaming, mega-centric combat mechanics, and story. It's got it all.
No, for sure. I cannot agree more. Feel free to come get your cards with it. Like, it's got such a unique mechanic and like combination of features, and also, man, the soundtrack rips so gosh dang hard. Devil Survivor is an interesting mechanic of how would we survive over 7 days with a different group of characters. And I mean, listen, it was a story so good they just copied it for the sequel, and none of us complained. But yes, if you haven't played it, please play the 3DS version. It is superior in just about every single way and is a fantastic experience. So next up... Next up, we've got what we in the biz like to call the real SMT4. Or also the cool kids on forums. The Nahabino got picked. Perfect. So what we've got is Doom Guy invades the world of SMT, and all the demons learn to regret it. So Shin Megami Tensei Strange Journey is such a strange journey. Like, it is, while I loved the weird diversions that like stuff like Devil Summoner and Soul Hackers took, the same can be said for Strange Journey. It's not in Japan. We're in Antarctica. We've got a wide array of different casts and characters from different regions and nationalities, and it's such a crazy setting and story that I can't say enough good things for. Unfortunately, it's that weird case of, unlike Devil Survivor, it's a really skewed fandom in terms of a lot of people love the original and a lot of people love the remake and a lot of people hate both for various reasons. So this is one you're going to have to kind of feel out on your own, do some research, but I love all versions of Strange Journey. It is such a crazy game that was, like I said, originally meant to be the next mainline installment, but was decided to be held off as just kind of a standalone game on its own. And whether it be the main title or not, I absolutely love it. I was also, hey, for again, like all the people who were at the concert on Saturday, who was like, we all knew it wasn't going to be there, but who would have loved to have heard any song from Strange Journey at that concert? Anything besides Womb of Grief, we would have been losing it. So next up we've got Thank you for not saying ew. We've got everyone's favorite version of Persona 3, Persona 3 Portable. And like I mentioned before, it's a portable version for Persona 3, but with a brand new addition of having a female protagonist character. And what was so funny about it was this game was like wildfire for like Japan in terms of like this game did absolutely bonkers, was sold a bajillion copies, was just really, really popular. And who here actually finally got a chance to play it when it got re-released this year on modern platforms? So like while it may not be everyone's favorite version, it's at least nice that this is a version that's been ported forward. It's $20 if you want to experience Persona in a pretty close to the original fashion. It's a really good kind of like, not remake, but it likes to like trick you. If you don't know it, it's basically Persona 3 as a visual novel, and I always really appreciate it as kind of being such. Now, Devil Survivor 2, like we said, it's a game so nice, it's just a better version of 1. Oh, I mean, everyone, like, some people like 1 better than 2, some people like 2 better than 1. But, like, legit, the story's just the same idea from 1, but with a different cast. And I've never thought it wasn't funny that the fandom doesn't hold it against it. It's like, it's okay, you deserve it, buddy, you did a great job. Devil Survivor 2, absolutely crazy, great art, great music, fantastic everything for it. Please play it, I can't say enough things for it. But we gotta go on. Was not expecting a hoot and a holler for P4A. Again, we gotta start burning through some of these, but Arc System Work developed, the BlazBlue team made a Persona fighting game, and this went way harder than it had any right to ever go. Had an arcade release originally, PS3 and 360 shortly after, and a very superior port we'll talk about in just a little bit. But I'm so glad you guys love it. This is like one of my like favorite games that we played for years, like playing online. Next up. Pretty safe to say the definitive version of Persona 4. Persona 4 Golden released on everyone's favorite console to make fun of me for owning, the PlayStation Vita. And literally was just one of those things that like this in the Vita, like, do you have a copy right now? Is that the PS2 copy? Do you just carry that around with you? All right, come on down. You gotta, since you had your copy, I figured it's only fair. I'm gonna give you a box to put it in. You're gonna put your copy, hide it in here. Go get a card, go get a box, go get a poster. But yeah, Persona 4 Golden released on the PlayStation Vita worldwide in 2012 and absolutely decided to be like, hey, hold my beer. I'm going to like blow all the sales proportions out of this. He really does have it. It is a Japanese copy for no reason. Oh, yeah. Fantastic. Golden is amazing. It's now on every platform and outside of maybe computers. IBM will get it next year, I'm sure. And he got the Maya card, even better. So, fantastic game. A lot of great additions. Cannot recommend it enough. It's a $20 game. Please enjoy it. But hey, we gotta talk about the big dog. That is Shin Megami Tensei 4. And Shin Megami Tensei 4 was literally Atlus's like big, hey, we're going to take a step into the future with this series, but not on consoles because that's really expensive and we're literally on the verge of going bankrupt. So most people know this. This was literally the last game Atlus published before they went bankrupt and had to get bought by Sega. So while it wasn't the best sales success at the time, SMT4 was a really weird like step forward while also kind of like being reserved as a 3DS game. It is a 3D environment where all the battles are 2D. It is very heavy on pixel art, but also having a super grand story of like ranging from the kingdom of Mikado, discovering Tokyo, spoilers, and finding out that Satan's a really hot like schoolgirl and stuff like that. There's many left and right turns that this game takes for it. And what's so funny about SMT4 is like it's just such a crazy concept of like really different, really melding its own themes with old and new. And I mean, like, again, like, it's like from the characters, Walter, Jonathan, even Flynn is Hoy. By the way, shout out to Isabeau. Never gets enough love. Isabeau in the chat. But SMT4, again, one of the things I'll just keep repeating how much I love different aspects of the series, but again, Atlas had no reason to go this hard on the soundtrack, and as we found out on Saturday, SMT4 has got one hell of a soundtrack. Now, speaking of good soundtracks, we've got Persona Q, Shadow of the Labyrinth, and Persona Q was developed by the Etrian Odyssey team. It is literally just Persona 3 and 4 had an Etrian Odyssey baby all over the 3DS, and it is one of the best soundtracks and needs to be played by more people. It's a fantastic game. Speaking of, we've got Persona 4 Arena Ultimax. It's Arena, but better, and with Shomi Nizuki. Also now out on modern. Now, I think this was like an EB Games exclusive cover. Most people probably don't know about that cover. It's a really rare one on there, but I appreciate it nonetheless. Persona 4 Dancing All Night, what originally started off as a Hatsune Miku Project Diva clone, turned into a full-on sequel to Persona 4 Golden, and I am so here for it. One of my favorite games, seriously, unironically, it's got great original soundtrack music for it. The remixes are amazing. The character models are great. While rhythm games may not be everyone's favorite, it always makes me smile when I find out someone got into Shin Megami Tensei through playing Dancing All Night. They saw Chad Yunarakami dancing to Specialist and went, I'm ready to learn about demons. So, all right, make some noise if you bought in the year 2013 Fire Emblem Awakening and Shin Megami Tensei 4 just for the $30 eShop credit. So, during the deep, dark era of Nintendo needing Wii U exclusives, they announced a little game called Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. And as the internet will never let us forget, this game never actually came out. We had a teaser trailer for it showing a bunch of JPEGs bumping into each other, and nothing happened of it for many, many years. And then one fateful day, I love that I couldn't tell if the ews or the cheers were louder. So outside of one of my gifts melting on the screen right now, bad news, everybody. This panel is being hosted by the world's largest TMS fan. I love Tokyo Mirage Sessions, Sharp, FE, and Encore. It is unironically one of Atlas's best games, and the J-pop that scared everyone away from it really is a bummer, but for all of you who've played it and have I know, it's not SMT Cross Fire Emblem, it's basically just someone slapped a bunch of SMT elements into a Fire Emblem J-pop game. It is so good. Please play it. The Switch version is seriously perfect. Come on, look at this game. Atlas made this game for you, and you all did not buy it, probably because it was a Wii U exclusive, but still, it's sitting there, it's waiting for you, and it's fantastic, and it is technically canon. Yes, you in the back with your hand up. Yeah, what's up?
This was the first SMT game I had ever heard of.
That deserves a card. Get on down here. Get your card. Get a card and give it to someone who booed this game. But don't make noises because I have so many games left to go through. Shin Megami Tensei 4 Apocalypse, what started as a re-release of 4 turned into its own what-if story. And God, I love Apocalypse. It's called Final in Japan. It's a fun, weird story. You know what I should have done? I should have used that cursed image of Flynn with the green skin that I always think of when I think of this game. For a quick question to get a card as I'm getting flagged down, who here knows what song is written on Nanashi's outfit? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Imagine.
It is Imagine. So, is it a nod to Imagine, the dead MMO? We'll never know. Next up, we've got Persona 5. Persona 5 is a game that came out and didn't have Shin Megami Tensei in it, so we're not going to talk about it because I'm running out of time. Next up, I love that. I feel like from the audio, that's just going to sound like we're all happy we didn't talk about Persona 5. But yeah, so as we already talked about Strange Journey Redux. That released on 3DS. Persona 5 Royal released. It is just the better version of Persona 5. I'm sorry, all you Kasumi haters out there. We're here to talk about. Talk about the big boy himself, or I should say they self. Fun fact, did you guys know that Nahabino technically and by official Atlas standards is like just a they them? They're not a he or a. So if you're like wondering, dude, where's your source? Like the fun thing is the people who designed the cards had to ask Atlas, like, do you want us to like give them their gender on Nahabino's card? And they were like, oh, Nahabino actually doesn't have a gender. So for all you non-binary fans out there, there's some affirmation lore for you. So we're at SMT 5, so I think it's appropriate we should give away the Beano. So to give away the Beano, I mean, unless Casey themselves came in and was like demanding the Beano, I don't know what I'd be able to do. So I'm going to come up with a hard question, but hopefully one that's worthy of getting this Beanie Boy. Who here, Beanie Boy with an I is still genderless in my dumb Midwestern brain. All right, so for the Nahabino, I'm going to think of a question. Just raise your hand if you want to say it. Who can name the Prime Minister of Tokyo? You, I saw your hand raised up first. What's their name?
From the game?
Yeah, from the game, not the real one. All right. Hold on. Hold on. For that, you get the plastic. All right, we're low on time. Raise your hands again. Who was the Prime Minister of Tokyo in SMT 5? Oh, I mean, hold on. You already got a prize, so I can't give you the beat. Okay, if it's for them and they know it, but you got to say it. Who's the Prime Minister? Hold on. What's her name? Well, that's a spoiler, but no. You now get the flyer. All right, one of you have to know the Prime Minister. Yes. Yes, you. It's close to Koshimizu. Prime Minister Koshimizu. By the way, for this Nahabino, I had to make sure that it wasn't just going to go to eBay. So not only did I open it, I actually had it tainted. I had Casey sign the forehead, and I had Damon sign the other part of the forehead. So you now have both sides of the Nahabino, all for you. Can I get a picture just so now I know?
Of course.
If you want to flip the bangs up, so that way we know they're. Oh, I mean Nahabino. Yeah, both bangs. Perfect.
Both sides?
Oh, you're good. Perfect. Thank you. All right, so that's the Beano. Oh yeah, and the card and everything else. So, Shin Megami Tensei 5 release. It was a Switch exclusive in 2021. It was a fantastic. Oh, hopefully you guys all loved it. You guys made a lot of noise for it. A fantastic game. Open world. Unreal Engine 5 was a huge step forward for the series, and I couldn't say enough great things about it. I can't wait to see where the series goes. Who here is excited for another game after SMT 5, like using these new mechanics, demons? Perfect. All right, so before we get kicked out of here, we're going to do a really quick power hour because I want to make sure everyone gets as many prizes as possible. So I'm going to go through the last couple of these games, thank all of you as well, and then if you guys, I'll meet you at the end of the table to give you all the cards and whatever before we get out of here. So we've got Soul Hackers 2. Please tell me someone played this game. It's okay. I know this game sold really bad and like 5 people played it. But if you love Shin Megami Tensei, I cannot recommend this game enough. It constantly goes on sale. It's a fantastic game. It is literally a sequel to Soul Hackers, but you don't need to play Soul Hackers 1 to play it. It's on just about everything minus the Switch. Now, we had a couple of new games announced recently that are still technically Megami Tensei. We had Persona 5 Tactica. Who's excited for a new tactics game? That comes out in 2023. And then a very popular remake, Persona 3 Reload. Very excited for that in early 2024. And I just want to say, I know I had to burn through like a series. I left out so many like spin-offs, by the way, like Majin Tensei, Jack Bros, SMT Pinball, Aiga's First Mission, Synchronicity Prologue, the dancing games, PQ2, Persona 5 Strikers.
One that you're missing is the gacha game that helped fund essentially.
DX2? DX2 is a thing, unfortunately. Yes, you are very correct. But yes, there are so many games that are missing. But I just want to say, even if I didn't get to talk about your games or was long about them, I am so glad that all of you guys wanted to come out here and talk about these games with me at AX. Thank you for coming out. Like I said, I do this weekly. I want to just say thank you all. Thank you guys seriously so much for coming out. I really appreciate. I love we're all leaving like there's like not a post-credits giveaway over here.